Hi, this is Daniela Berglis. From the year 2000 to 2010, the Quebec real estate market went through quite a prosperous period. The median price of a single-family home in Quebec increased from $94,500 in 2000 to $209,500 in 2010. This is an increase of 122% in 10 years. During the same period, inflation in the province reached only 20%. To learn more about the significant increase in residential real estate prices, I'm talking to Camille Laberge, an economist at the Quebec Federation of Real Estate Boards. Camille Laberge, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Camille, property prices have increased dramatically in Quebec over the past 10 years. Was this increase uniform across the province?
Not really. As you just mentioned, there was an impressive increase in prices in Quebec over the last decade. 122% is the increase of the median price for single-family homes. Now, of course, some metropolitan areas or some agglomerations showed increases that were higher, as some others showed increases that were a little lower than the median for the province. Among the metropolitan areas, Quebec City is the one that showed the highest increase, followed by Montreal and Gatineau, who also showed increases that were higher than the median for the province. Among the agglomerations, so not the metropolitan areas, but the smaller urban areas, Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu and Sainte-Agathe-des-Monts also showed increases that were higher than the entire province. Now, on the other hand, some other areas showed increases that were lower, like Shawinigan and Bécomo. I'd like to specify that not all the data was available for all the agglomeration or urban centers in the province. The data was sometimes not available in the year 2000. Therefore, we were not able to calculate price increases over the entire decade for all of the urban areas in the province.
And did property prices in Quebec increase as significantly in previous decades?
No, it did not. The past decade was actually the best decade among all the decades that we have data for, so starting in 1980s. But in order to compare the decades among each other, I have to switch to the average price instead of the median price. So between year 2000 and 2010, the average price grew by 123% in Quebec. During the 90s, it only grew by 10%. The increase was only 10%, while inflation was higher, 21%. During the 1980s, the increase in prices was higher, 107%, so it more than doubled. But properties were not the only assets that increased in prices. There was all of those consumption goods and services whose prices also increased by 77%, so there was high inflation. So the past decade, year 2000 to 2010, was the best decade in terms of increases in prices for Quebec.
And how does Quebec compare with the rest of Canada?
Quebec did very good over the past decade. Between year 2000 and 2010, as I mentioned, the increase for the average price for properties in Quebec was 123%, while the average for the entire country was 107%. So it was a higher increase during this decade, and it was the first decade where the province actually shows a higher increase than the national average. Quebec also did better than some other provinces, such as Ontario. So it allowed property prices to catch up with the prices of other provinces, such as Ontario.
And how do you explain this increase in property prices in Quebec between 2000 and 2010?
When we explain price increases, we usually refer to three aspects. There is the household incomes, there is the demographics, and there are interest rates. So if we look at household incomes, they increased all over the decade, and as it was more popular for both adult and the household to occupy a full-time job that it was during the 80s or the 90s. Interest rates were very low in average, making it very favorable for the real estate market. We know that most properties that are purchased are greatly financed, so interest rates have a great impact on their purchasing power. And during the past decade, demographics grew. It was enough to maintain price increases. There is also the fact that during the year 2000s, the market conditions were more tighter than what they were in the 1990s. So it was a market that was more favorable to the sellers. which explains higher price increases.
And the dramatic increase in Quebec real estate prices from 2000 to 2010, is that proof that properties in Quebec are less affordable today than they were in the past?
Not really. What we have to say about affordability is that it changes a lot over time. And it's not only the property prices that affect affordability, but also the interest rates, because they affect a lot. They affect a lot since people usually finance their property. So if we look at affordability, if we look at the Desjardins Affordability Index, we could say that in year 2010, a property was a little less affordable than what it was 10 years ago in year 2000, but it was more affordable than what it was in 1990, 20 years ago.
Camille Laberge, thank you very much for all of this information.
You're welcome.
The increase in property prices from 2000 to 2010 has enabled Quebec to catch up in part with higher prices seen in other Canadian provinces such as Ontario. However, on average, Quebec still remains one of the most affordable provinces in the country. For more information on this topic, I invite you to read The Word from the Economist, which appears in the most recent Window on the Market. This document can be found in the Publications section of the Members Only Extranet. This is Daniela Berglis, and I will see you again next time.